Yeah, John.
One more question on that. General David Petraeus is one of those people who went through Fort Bragg a number of times, even though his first command was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He penned a quite lengthy and detailed editorial about the reasons why those bases should be renamed, saying it's ironic that American soldiers and Marines are being trained at bases named for people who fought against the Union back in the Civil War, that many of the people for whom these bases are named were leaders held in questionable regard, but who were elevated during the Lost Cause movement. He goes on to say, we do not live in a country to which Braxton Bragg, Henry L. Bang, or Robert E. Lee can serve as an inspiration. What does the White House say to that particular point of view?
Fort Bragg is known for the heroes within it that trained there, that deployed from there, and it's an insult to say to the men and women who left there the last thing they saw on American soil before going overseas, and in some cases losing their lives, to tell them that what they left was inherently a racist institution because of a name. That's unacceptable to the president, and rightfully so. And I would also note, where do you draw the line here? I'm told that no longer can you find on HBO Gone with the Wind because somehow that is now offensive. Where do you draw the line? Should George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison be erased from history? What about FDR and because of internment camps? Should he be erased from history, or Lyndon Johnson, who has a history of documented racist statements? And finally, what about people that are alleged by the media to be segregationists? NBC tells us Joe Biden didn't just compromise with segregationists, he fought for their causes in schools, experts say. CNN tells us letters from Joe Biden reveal how he sought support of segregationists in the fight against busing. And Washington Post tells us that Biden's tough talk on 1970s schools desegregation plans could get him new scrutiny, and there are several more where that came from.
Even the White House correspondent from Fox News is able to read the room on the whole issue of protecting the names of Confederate generals. And yet, because Kayleigh McEnany's only objective is to defend every inane, fleeting thought to fall out of Trump's mouth, her position here is to support these Confederate generals. Apparently, this administration is unaware that they represent the side that defeated the Confederacy. And look, we're used to seeing Kayleigh flail in her desperation to defend her boss, but this moment has to take the cake, because in the same breath, she says that Fort Bragg is known for the heroes that train within it, before then saying that it would be beyond insulting to the troops that deployed from there to tell them that the last place they saw was being disparaged as racist. So which is it? Does it not matter what the base is named because it's about the soldiers? Or are the soldiers there fighting for the institution that they left? Because as much as she'd like to have it both ways, her response doesn't make any sense. McEnany then asks, where do you draw the line? Invoking George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, as if this is some slippery slope. It's not a slippery slope. You draw the line at Confederate generals. You draw the line at erecting monuments to those who fought to the death to preserve the institution of slavery. And rest assured, that's what this is. Confederate generals fought to protect the Confederacy, which existed solely to protect the institution of slavery. That's it. That was the difference between the North and the South. One side wanted slavery and the other didn't. The people who fought for the Confederacy made the conscious decision to fight for the right to own human beings. It is 2020. We are allowed to acknowledge how wrong that was. It doesn't mean we discard our heritage. It means we're big enough to own up to our mistakes. And lest there's any confusion here, the foundation of the Confederacy was a mistake. The fact is, if our national identity is so fragile that all it takes is changing the name of a military base to cripple it, then maybe we've got some bigger problems. And of course, McEnany ends with what else but an attack on Joe Biden. Because per usual, the White House strategy isn't to not do bad things, it's to do bad things and then blame everyone else when they get called out on it. So even though Trump today, in June of the year 2020, is still defending the Confederacy, which, to remind you, waged war against this country that we live in right now with the aim of destroying it, the White House's defense is that in 1970, Joe Biden had an untoward school desegregation plan. In 1970. By the way, just to show you how much of a loser Trump's position is, even NASCAR has come out and banned the display of Confederate flags at their events. They issued a statement saying, quote, "The presence of the Confederate flag at NASCAR events runs contrary to our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans. Bringing people together around a love for racing and the community that it creates is what makes our fans and sports special. The display of the Confederate flag will be prohibited from all NASCAR events and properties." In other words, Even NASCAR realized that this wasn't a hill worth dying on. Even NASCAR was able to read the room. As far as Trump goes, when you make NASCAR look liberal, you might have lost the plot. The simple fact is that if the, quote, heritage of this country that you're trying to protect is one of the Confederate generals who fought to preserve slavery, then you're telling people in no uncertain terms that you aren't against slavery. The same way that defending a Hitler statue would make clear where you stand. So Trump and his mouthpieces can hide behind their buzzwords and pretend that this is about heritage or patriotism or liberty or freedom or whatever other poll-tested slogans they use to mask their actual depravity, but he's not fooling anyone. And even worse is that this is all being done while protests have sprouted up across the country. Protests predicated on the unequal treatment of Black Americans. And the fact that Trump chose now to defend Confederate generals makes it abundantly clear which side of the issue he's on. If you like that video, please check out my brand new podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll cover the most important political stories of the week and interview major players in the world of politics. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out and subscribe now.